If you brought a Bible, turn to Matthew chapter 25. We started a brand new series last week called The Generous Life, and it's all about wealth, money, possessions, and what we do with it, how tightly we hold on to it or how freely we give it away. And if it's your first Sunday, we mentioned last week, what a funny thing to visit church for the first time. And of course, pastor's talking about money. But hang with us. Give me some grace. I think, and I believe that understanding and practicing generosity, and not just generosity towards the church, not just to and through the church, but practicing generosity as a life principle is one of the most effective ways to go deeper in your faith. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Before we get to our first verse, which will actually be in Proverbs, but then we'll be in Matthew 25, I'll mention a one-time class we're going to do on July 8th called Financial Freedom. This is going to be taught by Dave Baer, who is our executive ministry lead and also finance chair, because he and I were meeting last week, and we have 4 weeks. That's all this series is going to be, 4 weeks, where we're talking about generosity. We're talking about wealth. We're talking about how to honor God with our wealth. But if all we do on a Sunday morning is engage with the inspiration, which we have the inspired word, and we trust that when I preach, when I teach, it's not my words that are having an impact on anyone here. Not at all. It's the inspiration of the Holy Spirit who takes those words and applies them to your heart and yours and everybody else in this room. So we need to be open to that inspiration. And while we're doing that, part of my job is to teach, which is information. You should know what it is we're talking about. So there's inspiration, which grips our heart, and information, which engages our mind. But what we want to move towards as a church is transformation, change in our lives, action. Because if all we do is get inspired, think about exercise. I'm excited about getting fit, getting in shape, getting stronger. And we have information. Well, I can put together this plan. I can go buy these workout clothes or these shoes. Okay, great. But we never take any of that and translate to action, running, lifting weights, sit-ups, push-ups, eating right. Then the inspiration and the information fade away. No impact, no change. That's not what we want here. We want to be changed. So this class is one opportunity, one time, 6 o'clock, a couple hours, for anyone who says, you know what, I would like to learn more about generosity. I'd like to learn how can I actually be generous? The phrase that we just sang, make room, sometimes to be generous, you may want to be generous, you desire, you pray for it, but your budget is so out of whack. You're so upside down on a loan. The debt has become an unmanageable number, and you're paying into interest and not seeing the principal go down, or you don't know where your money is going. You don't know do I have enough coming in? I don't know what's going out. Dave is going to walk through some best practices to say, hey, kind of some triage. Hey, let's talk about finance. Let's talk about the X's and O's, the numbers behind it. And so there's more information about this in the Church Center app, but I would highly encourage anyone, if what you're experiencing on a Sunday morning with the inspiration and the information, you want to do something with that, but you feel like there's a roadblock. You're not sure what the next step is. This class may be that next step. This past week, as we talk about wealth, Elon Musk became a trillionaire. Everybody see this in the news? Saw this? That's a big number. I did not know how big of a number it was. Now, I realize it's not that he has a Scrooge McDuck type vault that he's swimming in. It's not just cash on hand. It's stocks and the companies he owns and things like that. But he has a net worth of, at least financially speaking, I think it's like 1.1 trillion. I definitely didn't know what that meant, so I looked up online, say, how can I figure out what this means? And I had to run these numbers through Chat GPT because I did not believe they were accurate, and Chat promised me twice. I even typed in, are you sure? Because I'm going to tell my church this, and I'm not good at math, so I'm banking on you. Here's what I found online, that if you would, one person would spend $1 million every day. That sounds fun. I don't even know if you could do it. Some of you are like, watch me. Like, yeah, right. If you spend $1 million every day, and you did that for 3 years, $1 million every day of the week. That's your full-time job, is to spend $1 million a day, and you did it every day, no days off for 3 years. That would result in $1 billion. Oh, man, that's kind of wild. What about $1 trillion? Glad you asked. If you spent $1 million a day, it would take you 2,740 years to spend $1 trillion. Our minds are finite. There is a limit to what we can understand and what we can perceive of. Is anyone else having trouble grasping what $1 trillion is? I'd be like, I don't know, what's 10,000 like? That sounds like a lot. $1 trillion. What does that do to somebody? I don't know, Elon Musk. I tried to look up. He hasn't been very vocal about his faith. You can't really find much. I don't know, maybe he has faith, maybe he doesn't. But I wonder what that kind of wealth does to any person, regardless of faith. How do you see the world? How do you see other people? How do you see problems? How do you see opportunities when you do not have to think about money? I think that's a level of wealth that I think is next level. Because if you see this, if you follow sports careers, rookies, football, basketball, they'll sign a contract, a rookie contract, and they'll go from making almost no money. Well, now with NIL, it's a little different, but they'll go from being an athlete who doesn't make much to making millions. And there are many tragic stories where that person has no financial bearing whatsoever, and they think millions, but they spend it like they have trillions, and they do not think about money. And the sad stories are individuals who wind up in debt. Can you imagine that, having millions of dollars in your 20s, and yet you wind up in debt because you spent it like you had trillions? Well, if you have trillions, you actually don't have to think about money. You would have to try insanely hard to give that kind of money away. You and I couldn't do it. So that kind of wealth is unique, and I wonder how much good could be done with that, right? Don't you wonder that? Like, there's so many problems. I picked one. I had to look this up, but I was reminded as I got into very, very quickly, 1 out of 4 people that we share this planet with do not have ready access to clean drinking water. 1 out of 4 worldwide do not have clean water immediately available. And because of that, worldwide, every year, roughly 360,000 children die, related to diarrhea caused from unsafe drinking water. Most of us, that is an inconvenience on the worst day. We're minorly worried about our kids, give them some Pedialyte, take care of them, take the day off school, whatever, right? 360,000 children die annually because of sicknesses contracted because they have unsafe drinking water. So clearly, boy, if one of us had $1.1 trillion, we'd fix all that, right? And Elon could fix that, or someone else has big money, they could fix that. But we don't know what they're going to do with their money. We're only entrusted with the wealth that God has given us, as we mentioned last week. God has called us to prioritize generosity. We can't spend Elon's money, but we've been entrusted with our own. Last week we began by looking at Proverbs chapter 3, verses 9 and 10 that says this: honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. If you weren't here last week, I want you to know this is not a promise. This is a principle. The book of Proverbs is not filled with promises as if you follow this will guarantee happen. We do not believe in any expression of a prosperity gospel here, that if you give 1,000, God will give you back 2,000. If you give $100 and you're going to have a check come in the mail that you weren't expecting. I couldn't believe any aspect of that, nor would I teach it. The Apostle Paul, I think, would disagree with all of that. One who was, he says he knows what it was like to have plenty, but also he was very familiar to not have what he needed. So I don't believe in any type of prosperity gospel, but the principle being taught is that we have wealth, and if we will use it for God, we will use it for God's kingdom, if we will give him the first and the best of what we have, we give back to him, then blessings unfold on our lives in a unique way. And I know there's many, many stories in this church of how that happens. The principle that we want to focus on for these 4 weeks, so this is week 2. Would love for you to go back and listen to the first week, Apple Podcast, YouTube, whatever. We have 2 more weeks to go. But here's our principle, is that everything I have comes from God, belongs to God, and is intended for the purposes of God. Last week, we began by talking about that everything comes from God. It's all been given. Anything you have, even the things that you worked for with your hands and you invested and you saved, who gave you the ability? Who gave you those hands to work? Who gave you breath in your lungs and energy in your body and gave you this opportunity to have what you have? Today in The Generous Life, if you're a note taker, the title I'd give this is Faithful with Little, Faithful with Much. Faithful with little, faithful with much. We're going to look at Matthew 25, verses 14 to 30, one of my favorite passages in the entire Bible. This is a story that Jesus tells. If you want to go read the surrounding chapters and the surrounding stories, you'll see there's a context. And Jesus is doing a long, wide-ranging bit of teaching. He's preaching. And in 25, verses 1 to 13, he's talking about how his followers need to be ready for his return. Because someday he's going to leave, but he is going to come back. And he's telling them that in verses 1 through 13, he says, until I come back, you need to be vigilant, which means you are ready by watching. You're not going to be surprised. You're looking for Jesus' return. So we need to be vigilant. But here in 14 to 30, you'll see, he doesn't just tell his followers to be vigilant, he also tells them to be diligent, which means you're ready through working. We don't just sit on our hands and wait for Jesus to come back. We don't spend all our money and put it on credit because who cares? Jesus is coming back. He says, no. Be vigilant and watch, and be diligent and wait. And in the first 2 words of this passage, it says, again, it will be like it. He's talking about the kingdom of heaven at the time of his return. Not heaven like the someday, but the kingdom of heaven, which is both now and not yet. We all are heading towards eternity. We have mortal bodies today, but those mortal bodies through Christ will be raised immortal. And so we've already begun our eternal journey right now. And here's, with that context, what Jesus teaches through this parable in Matthew 25, starting in verse 14. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag dug a hole in the ground, and he hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good, faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid. I went out and I hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed? Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him, give it to the one who has 10. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Not a pleasant ending. Here in this parable, Jesus is teaching using a story that has a bigger purpose. The man, the master of the servants, is representative of Jesus. Even the word master that Matthew records here is the same word that he uses elsewhere to write the word Lord. So very clearly, this is not like a deep level dive. No, Jesus is the master in this situation, and the listeners are these servants. And what he gives is bags of gold. Or if you have a different translation, which I think might be helpful, it says talents. The CSB version is one of many that translate bags of gold as talents in verses 14 and 15. For it's like a man is going to go on a journey. He called his servants and entrusted his possessions. To one he gave 5 talents, to the other 2 talents, to the other 1 talent. A talent, a bag of gold might make sense, but to me, it seems kind of general and vague. And the word talent, I think, is a better translation because there are specifics. It's a unit of weight, kind of like a ton. It's a lot. Roughly 75 pounds. And what would be given, they're probably talking about paying gold or silver. So 75 pounds would be in 1 talent. 1 talent, 75 pounds. Now, to frame this, you see on the screen, the daily wage for a common laborer. If you wake up, you go, I'm going to work today. You go out, hey, is anyone hiring today? Yeah, come work in my field. You go work all day, 8-10 hours. And at the end of that work, you go to the person in charge, say, hey, I'd like to be paid. They will give you 1 denarius. Congrats, you worked all day. You get a denarius. A talent was worth the equivalent of 6,000 denarii, the plural. 6,000 days of labor equals 1 talent. And did you see how much he gave out to each person? 1, 2, or 5 talents. Jesus is not mean to be precise. It's not a mathematical equation. What he's trying to do, though, is show that this is a tremendous amount of money. Different scholars have different ideas based on whether we're dealing with gold or silver and what year they're making this, they're, kind of like looking at inflation and things like that. But I looked at a number of different scholars, and you can say safely the equivalent today might be that a talent is worth around $900,000. Now, that would be pretty fun. If I came to you and said, I need some help. No, don't run away. I need help. But hold on. You're going to like this one. I need you to help me spend $900,000. Wouldn't that be kind of cool if I came to one person in here? Good. Look under your seats real quick. Just like the first service, nobody moved. I do not have $900,000 for anyone. But what Jesus is trying to get at is this is a big number, even for the one who only received 1 talent. And all of it belongs to the master. Now, the servants in this case, there are not just servants. They are, in fact, stewards. Stewards, or the idea of stewardship, is a very important concept if we're going to understand generosity. I think maybe a more applicable word, a more understandable word, is caretaker. A caretaker takes care of something that is not theirs. When I was in high school and in college, when I'd be off for the summer, I had friends whose parents, when they traveled, family vacations, they would have me house sit. I'd watch their dog. I'd take care of their house. And I had a friend in Fort Wayne with a beautiful house off of Coldwater, way back in the woods, about a half-mile driveway, beautiful house back there. And I got to house sit for them. Beautiful, huge house. And in the basement was a pool table, and they had all these woods with trails. And in their garage was a really cool four-wheeler, which they did not say I could use, but importantly, they never said I couldn't use. So I loved house sitting for them, just to tear through this woods in the snow and just go flying around on a four-wheeler. I could have friends over and hang out, watch the game, whatever. Now, what I couldn't do is add a renovation to the house while they were gone. I couldn't rent it out on Airbnb. I couldn't do anything with it because it wasn't mine. I was just the caretaker. Keep the dog alive. Eat if food's going to spoil, take care of it. Pick up the mail. Make sure the lights are on, this and that. Like, just make sure things are okay. I was the caretaker. And when they came home to settle up, they probably looked around to make sure the place was still standing and the dog was alive, right? Okay, we're good. Here, these servants are stewards. They are given something that they did not earn and do not deserve and is not theirs. But they are stewards. They are caretakers of this tremendous amount of money. And he gives them to the first. He says, I'm going to give you 5 talents, and this is according to his ability. The master believed that the first individual could handle this huge amount of money, maybe $4.5 million equivalent. Big, big, big money. And then in verse 16, it says that this individual went at once to work, to leverage, to use, to invest. The second individual as well, 2 talents, huge amount of money, maybe almost $2 million worth. In verse 17, it says, so also this person went to work. And yet the person who only received 1 talent in verse 18 says this person dug a hole and hid the money. And in 19, after a long time, the master returns to settle up, to see what was going on. And in verse 21, we see a 3-fold reward. The master replied to this first individual who had the 5 talents. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. He gives him 3 things: praise, more responsibility, and the joy of success. First, he praises him. Well done, good and faithful servant. He's proud. He's thankful. You did a good job. If you work for someone else, if you have anyone in authority over you, maybe it's just your parents, and they tell you, they take you aside and say, hey, that thing that I asked you to do, I just want to let you know, you did a really good job. In fact, you did everything I asked and then some. Thank you. Great job. Or in sports, you have a coach who says, hey, you really left it all out there today. Good work. You're doing great. Like, it feels good to have your work validated and praised. And that's what the first thing that this master does is say, you did a great job, and I'm really proud of you. Second, gives them more work to do. The first time I read this, I thought this will be a weird thing to preach because then people won't do it because I don't want to do work so that I have to do more work. This sounds backwards, but as I slowed down and read it a little bit, it's not just work. In fact, that's not what he gives them. What does he give them? Responsibility. If you've worked at a job and never gotten a promotion, and the boss says, hey, you've been doing great, and I think you could do more. We'd like to move you up in the agency, in the group, or on a team. Hey, I've seen you've been working, and I know you've been a bench player for a while, but man, you're ready to be a starter. You're ready to come up. You wouldn't turn that down and go, no more work for me. I'm good. No, thank you. If you're in a military context, like going from a ranking to a higher ranking, this is a great honor, that responsibility. He says, you've been faithful with a few things. I love that he looks at potentially $4.5 million worth of gold and says, oh, that's just a few. That's just a little bit. That's like that Elon Musk level of money. You don't have to think about money. Oh yeah, that's pocket change. That's a few. I'm going to give you much. I'm going to give you more. I'm going to give you many responsibilities. And then lastly, he gives the joy of success. He says, come and share in your master's happiness. This is great job. Can we just sit and look at the project that's well done? You did so well. Let's just appreciate the hard work. Let's appreciate that you went way beyond the quota. You did the thing and then some. Let's just sit for a little bit. I'm so thankful. Share in this. This person gets a 3-fold reward. And then the next individual, the person who had been given 2 talents and made 2 talents more. Now this person, looking at the different math and things like that, on the best day, 2 talents doesn't come close to the 5 talents that the first person made. So the equivalence is way off. The first one is the highest earner, the big dog. The second one did a good job, but it's not even half of what the first person made. So there should be, you would think, a degree of different, just a different response. But no, we just read verse 21. Now look at verse 23. Verbatim, same reward. His master replied to the second individual, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. This is unique. Why would it be the exact same reward when the other person, the first person, made more than twice as much money? Isn't that unfair? Shouldn't the first person have a better reward than the person who made less than half? No, because it's up to the master to decide on the response. And this master is not rewarding the fortunes made. In fact, I don't think the master cares. He says, this is peanuts. This is not a lot of money, you guys. This is few. I don't care. I'm not rewarding you for the fortunes made, but for the faithfulness that you exhibited, that you worked hard with what you've been given. You put it to work in ways that I would have if I would have been here. This is where I said at the beginning, I believe your finances, your wealth, the things that we have been given is an opportunity for us to grow, to develop faithfulness, to exercise faithfulness, and I believe to go very, very deep in our faith. I hear this a lot. I get an email, a text, someone will pull me aside. Pastor, hey, I just want to talk to you for a second. Man, God's been doing some great work in my life. I just want to go deeper. And I just celebrate that so much. If that's you, praise God that you are hungry. You hunger and thirst for righteousness. You will be filled. It's good to have a desire for more. We should be greedy for God's blessing and development in our life. And so you say, I want to go deeper. And maybe if I point you towards the Bible, you're going to go deeper in your understanding of Scripture. That's very good. Or if I point you towards, you want to go deeper while you're serving yet? Maybe you begin to serve and join a team, and you'll grow deeper in your relationship with other people. But there's an opportunity we all have, every person, to go deeper in the path of generosity. And this is one that often people assume, oh yeah, I'll go deeper by reading the Bible, I'll go deeper by serving, I'll go deeper in prayer. This one isn't always top of our mind. I'll go deeper in my generosity. But when we live generously, we open up an area in our lives and in our hearts to God in a way that many people don't. Many of us haven't done this. Jesus says later in Matthew 6 and in Luke 12, we'll cover this in a week or two, he says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so we have these challenging teachings about generosity that if you'll invest, you'll give, you'll use, you'll be open-handed with the financial blessings you have, that there is depth and growth and faithfulness on the other side of that. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 4:12, he says, this then is how you ought to regard us, as servants of Christ and as those entrusted, think of stewards, entrusted with the mysteries God has revealed. And it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. Think about all you've been entrusted with. We can begin with money. We said last week we all have wealth. Whatever you have, you may wish it was more. That's pretty common, but you've been given wealth. You've been entrusted with an amount of money, access to resources. But this passage is not only about money. It can't be about less than money, but it's definitely worth about more than money. I think another thing it could be about is your time. Think of your time. As we were praying, I sat down and the Lord just convicted me of how I spend my time. Our family, we try to be very diligent and we keep a monthly budget of our finances so we know what comes in and what goes out. We have a zero-based budget. We use it all. We save it. We pay off this. We invest in the things that we need to keep our family safe and warm and clothed and fed. But as I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm not nearly as diligent when it comes to my time. I let a lot of that slip through my fingers, and I wonder where it went. Oh, why don't I have enough? And then something comes up, and I don't have any time left. Think about your relationships. You've been entrusted, perhaps with children. You've been entrusted with a husband, a wife, a fiance, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. You've been entrusted with an important person. Is that person better off because they've been entrusted to you? I think about that a lot with my children and my wife. Think about your health, your influence, your job, and yes, your money. The master gives all of these things, and he expects a return on what he is given. It belongs to him. A couple of years ago, I was invited to go to a fundraiser for Black Hawk School in Fort Wayne. At the time, some family members were schooled there, and they did a fundraiser. They said, hey, we bought a table. Can you come, have dinner? And it's a fundraiser. And I said, I will gladly come and eat a free dinner. I am in no position to pay for other kids, for your kids to go to school. I got to pay for my kids to go to school. So as long as we're cool on that, if I can come for the free dinner part, they said, yeah, please come. It's covered. We just love your company. So we go. There's some family members there, and we had a good dinner. They're raising money for their school, and a friend of mine named Jody was there, and Jody, for this auction, you had these little cards with numbers on them, right? You've been to an auction where you're doing the thing, and Jody wanted to bid on a prize, and it was one of the highest prizes at the auction for the fundraiser, and it was this. I think it was a dozen gift cards to the top 12 restaurants in Fort Wayne. Pretty cool, like nice restaurants. And I think each gift card was at least $250, something like that. So it's like, you don't have to go and like skimp and just get an appetizer and then get out of there. It's like, no, go eat a good meal and have fun and move slowly and invite friends. And so he wanted that. He said, I'm going to get that. I'm going to bid on that. And I don't know why at some point as they're getting ready for that part of it, he said, hey, I got to step out for a minute. Take my little bidding thing. Mark, can you bid on this for me? And I said, yeah, sure, you coming back? He's like, yeah, I'll try to get back in a minute, but just bid on this. I really want this thing. And I said, okay, and they started bidding. Hey, we have 500, 500, 500, hey, 500, hey. And I go, yeah, sure, 500. A bunch of people, 500. And as it goes, the numbers are going up and up and up, and very quickly to a number, I double-checked to make sure it was his card and not mine, because they were attached to your debit card ahead of time. That kind of, do I have his card, right? Yeah. And then the number got beyond something that just I couldn't afford, and to a point where I was uncomfortable betting or bidding this much money. And there's less and less people bidding, and it's down to 4 people, then 3, and then 2, and it's me and someone else across the room. And I'm like, where is Jody? He's going to kill me. I hope he takes me to dinner, but he's going to kill me. And we're going back and forth, and it's in the thousands at this point. And I'm looking for Jody, and I think at some point I see him in the back, and he's just like, all right. And baby, I won that thing. And it cost thousands of dollars. And none of it was my money. But I got to spend, and all that money goes to the school, right? Those are all donated gifts from people. All of that money went to the school to help with scholarships and help families. I got to be generous with Jody's money. And you know what didn't hurt at all? My wallet, my checking account, my app with money, because it didn't come from my account. But I got to spend knowing that I had a blank check. This is the attitude we see from these first 2 individuals. And that these first 2 servants, Jesus, through the parable, is wooing us as listeners. He's telling us, he's leading us gently with inspiration of like, I have so much. We're just saying, my Father has it. Everything I need, my Father has it. And he's wooing us and saying, I got you. And look at the promise of, well done, good and faithful servant. He's wooing us. But sometimes we know different people are motivated in different ways, and sometimes wooing isn't inspirational. Sometimes we need to be warned. And that's where we come to this third individual, 1 talent, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gold. And this third individual comes up, says, hey, I was scared. I'll be honest. I'm scared of you. You're a big business person. I know a lot about you. And we don't even know if the things that the third person insinuated are true. We don't know. But he says, I hid it. I hid your money. And the master is furious. Now, he didn't lose any money, but he's furious. Why? Because he didn't gain any investment. And remember, these are few for him. He goes, why would you not invest? I barely gave you pennies. You couldn't invest pennies? And instead of a threefold reward, he gives a threefold punishment. In verse 26, instead of praise, he gives condemnation. You wicked, lazy servant. In verse 28, instead of added work and responsibility, he actually demotes him. He strips him of any responsibility. And then in verse 30, instead of a shared joy of success, this servant is faced with separation. Get out of here. If you're not going to honor me with what I've given you, what are you even doing here? Get outside. We don't know the length of time for which we will be entrusted with the things we've been entrusted with, our family, our health, our very lives. Our lives are like a mist. They're here and then they're gone. We all know that. And we begin to think, okay, what's going to happen? Some of you know a couple weeks ago I missed church because I hurt my back. And I went to the emergency room. It hurt tremendously. I woke up. It was awful. I've never been in so much pain. And I went to the emergency room. And they helped get it under control with morphine and things like that. But now I knew it was my back. I had back problems. It's this area back here, and I knew. And I'm telling them, it's my back. Well, because I came in and said, hey, I've got pain. I've got shortness of breath. I actually feel some tightness shooting down my arm. What did they need to check out? A heart attack. So they ran a lot of tests, put me through different machines and a bunch of things stuck on me. And they ran through all the tests and they said, hey, your heart is fine. But I'll be honest, there's been heart issues in our family. Some of the healthiest people in our family have had heart issues. And it made me think, what if this is it? What if my time is closer to an end than I ever thought? And I know most of us aren't given that heads up of, hey, a lot of people we know, life ends without much prep. And I thought maybe this is it. Maybe this is the end of, not in that moment, but you just never know, right? You're in the room, there's a lot of beeping and things, and you just never know. Is this the end of the time that I've been given to maximize, to invest, to use God's blessings in my life? And I did. I thought about my wife. Is she better off? If I don't come home from this, has she been blessed and built up and encouraged in her faith because of the time spent with me? Have my children at the ages of 15 and 12, if that's the end, have I given everything I can, and will they be okay going forward if I'm not there with them? And it motivated me to think about how active, how intentional, how engaging am I right now with my time, or do I do a lot of my time on my phone? That's what really, I walked out of there, clean bill of health, doing good, back's doing good, went for a run yesterday. Again, running is doing a lot of heavy lifting. I went for a long, kind of speedy walk, but I'm getting there. Church, we have an opportunity, and there's an expectation. We have a master who wants a return on his investment, and we've all been given wealth. And he wants us to use what we've been given, not primarily for our comfort and our leisure and our plans, but for his, to take our plans, to absorb his plans, to take over ours. We have an opportunity. I'm going to invite, where's Becky Porter? Becky Porter, right there in front of me. I thought you were. Becky Porter leads our outreach team. And this is the team responsible for a couple of other things, but Love in Action. Over the Christmas holiday, when we do the food drive, we all go to Walmart and mess up the plans of everyone who was there trying to do their normal Sunday shopping, and we just fill the aisles and make the lines long. But that's our outreach team, not to do all the outreach. That's not Becky's job. Becky's job as an outreach team leader is to create opportunities for us as a church to step into and do the things God has called us to do. So tell us about a fun opportunity that we get and we're going to be doing.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So our team, the outreach team, and with some guidance from Pastor Marc and with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, we wanted to do a back-to-school event. We felt that there was a need for this. So we knew that there's lots of other organizations that do backpacks and school supplies, but we know that there's still a need for other things to get ready for back to school. So with some guidance of the Holy Spirit and just some meditation on what we could do, we decided to go with hoodies and haircuts. We got children, we sent out flyers, and we got kiddos to sign up, and they are going to come in. They are going to get a free hoodie and a free haircut on Saturday, August 1st. The event is going to run from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. What that does is we are just so excited, and we want to not only just reach the community, but we also want to provide these children with just a sense of dignity, that they can come in and be able to pick out their own brand new hoodie for the school year, and also maybe show a picture of a haircut that they want. The haircuts are going to be done by myself, some of my coworkers, and other community hairstylists. We are so excited for this opportunity. What we are going to do with the church, what your guys' opportunity is to go buy brand new hoodies. You can go to Walmart, you can go on Amazon, you can go to sporting goods stores, Kohl's, wherever you shop, and you can get a brand new hoodie. If you don't know what to buy, think of your children, think of your grandchildren. What sizes do they wear? what is their favorite color, things like that. And what you can do for the next 4 Sundays, we are going to have racks out in the connection point. You can come in, you can bring in a brand new hoodie and hang it up, and we're just going to fill the racks. We're going to get it ready. If you're curious on the need for this, so far we have 87 children signed up through the local schools, and we're still signing up more. Our goal is to do 20 children per hour with the hope of about 150 to 160 kids total. So yeah, I'm so excited for this, and I hope that you guys are excited too, just for the opportunity to reach the community and to just make an impact.
It's absolutely. It's expensive. Back to school, supplies, all these kind of things. We know that, of course, it's expensive, and we just know that there are folks in our, and by the Becky and the team going through the local counselors and counseling agencies and putting the need, making the need aware. We haven't just posted it online that anybody can just sign up. No, we wanted to make sure that this gets first and foremost directly to the families who would benefit from it most. And if that's you, if you're here and you're like, oh man, that would be helpful to me, then please talk to me after, or Becky, or a staff member. We'll get that link to you as well. It's not meant to only be something out in the community, but to bless this community. And you mentioned the word dignity. This is really important. We could absolutely just ask you for your used hoodies, just the stuff your kid, because they grew out of it and now it's coming in. But there is something unique about going and picking out the hoodie you want. If you're a Cubs fan, you don't want to wear a hoodie that supports the Reds. If you don't like camo or you don't like those, we pick out the clothes we like. And sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where it's like, it's going to be a Goodwill season. It's going to be hand-me-downs. It's going to be garage sales. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a great way to be financially minded to take care of your family. And we know sometimes it can be difficult to tell your kid, your child, hey, I know it doesn't fit quite right. I know you wish it could have been this brand, but all they had was this brand. I know it's a little worn. I know it, but you're warm and fed, and praise God that as parents and families, we can take care of our kids. But if we as a church can step in and say in this one little way, hey, we got you. Under Armour, Nike, if it's Walmart, if it's Amazon Basics, whatever you would buy for your kid, your nephew, your niece, your grandkid, buy it. And if you can buy 2, buy 2. And we're going to give these away. We could have just asked for your money. Hey, we're going to do a quick offering. Who will give to this? Everybody would. $1, $5, $1,000, whatever. We make that money like that. But we don't want to just buy it on your behalf. We want you to be able to choose and think about, hey, what student is going to get this? I'm going to pray for the kid who's going to receive this, the family who's going to receive it. A haircut is a way just to spend some time talking and being a blessing with the blessings we've been given. Does that sound good? Awesome. Can you thank Becky again for their work? That's one thing we're going to do. And we've got more coming. I'll close with this. I'm going to close with a passage from Luke 16, and then just one last thought. Luke 16, Jesus tells another parable, and at the end of it, in verses 10, 11, and 12, he says this: whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. You may feel that what you have, the resources in your bank account, in your pocket, in your life, it's very little. But God, I don't have very much. In fact, I'm one of the people in need. That's okay, because it's not about the amount. It's about faithfulness. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much. But whoever is dishonest with little will be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, money, who would trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who would give you property of your own? Elon Musk is worth $1.1 trillion. And if we all emailed him today, maybe, and we said, hey, would you just use this for something good? We got some ideas. Maybe he would do it, probably not. Because poverty still exists. And there's a lot of money in the world. There's a lot of billionaires. And it teaches us that we don't have a resource problem. We have a generosity problem. There's more than enough to go around, right? There's more than enough to go around. And we have to understand that God owns it all. And he's entrusted it to all humans, not just those in this room, not just Christians. God has entrusted the entire world to all the people that inhabit it. But all the way back in Genesis with Adam and Eve in the garden, he says, hey, it's yours. Take care of it. Name the animals. Rule over it. Subdue it. It's for you. It belongs to God, but he entrusts it to us. All the riches in the world are available for all the problems in the world. And as much as I wish somebody like Elon Musk might go, you know what, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to fix that clean drinking water problem. And he could fix it like that and not even think about it. When you have a trillion, 160 billion is not a number you have to think about. But even if Elon Musk gave away 100% of his wealth, that would be a one-time gift. American Christians, there are enough of us that if we gave 1% of our income, 1% altogether, it would total up to roughly $160 billion. There's that same issue solved, potentially. Again, it goes, I know it's complicated, it goes to the church, it pays for lights, it does all these things, but the money is still there. If we gave 5%, if American Christians, just in America, if we gave 5% of what comes in, that would be a total of $800 billion. And if we gave 10%, and I told you I'm not going to push a percent or an amount, but I will put this out there just so you can see the numbers, that if we as American Christians gave 10% away, that would be $1.5 trillion. But think about this, where Elon could give a gift one time of 1.1 trillion, I know I'm simplifying it, that would be a one-time gift. We as American Christians, if we gave 10% of our income away, that would be 1.5 trillion annually. Can you imagine what the world would look like if generosity began to be the thing that defines who we are? That there would be no one in Kendallville with a need? I can't think about the whole world, 160 billion, whatever. But what could be done in Kendallville? Are there financial needs in Kendallville? There's a lot. Are there families who need way more than a hoodie? Absolutely. But we don't need Elon. We have been given all we need to make the difference in the lives of the people around us. When you give towards the kingdom, you are giving towards eternal matters. See, God has entrusted us as his followers, as stewards, to take the resources we've been given, and we have more than enough to do all we've been called to do. I have never seen, sometimes we use phrases like, God will provide. We just sang that. God will provide. But I have never seen a bag of cash that floated down or was just left on the doorstep of the church. I've never seen a check come in signed God or from God's checking account. Guess who 100% of the gifts that have come to and through this church have been from? You. Us. Every gift that God provides comes from someone who has been entrusted with the gifts God has given. And then we have the choice to hold them like this, to give them towards the neighbor, towards the person, towards the haircut and hoodie opportunity, towards something else. And as I said, shared with someone in between services, if all of this, you hear all of this, you go, yeah, Pastor, but I've heard this before. The pastor talks about giving money because it goes towards the church and the pastor. It's fairly self-serving. Then I always have this caveat, this disclaimer. If that is stopping you, if that's the only thing from stopping you from being generous, is that the person communicating the message has a salary with the same organization, I'll say, I get it. Then give to another church. Give to the church you gave up in or grew up in. Give to your parents' church, your grandkids' church. Give to a church, the closest church to here that's not this one, because it's not about the money coming to us and in this house. It's going to God's kingdom. Give to and through a church. I believe that we are doing a unique work here, and I think it's good to invest in the house where you live. But if for a season you're not ready yet, give to another church. Find a church that is following hard after Jesus and give to that same kingdom ministry. We're all on the same team. We're serving the same God, and he's entrusted us to do something big. I want to pray for us as we close today, simply that God would get a hold of our hearts and that we would not be able to stop thinking about the opportunity, the fun. Think about bidding at an auction with someone else's money. It's a good feeling to be generous. Father God, thank you for the opportunity we have in front of us. opportunities, because before we buy hoodies, we will encounter people surely this afternoon, tomorrow, this week, who are in need of our time, our encouragement, our support, maybe a resource, maybe an appliance that you have, something, a yard working tool that you have that your neighbor doesn't, and they need to borrow it. Help us hold those things loosely. A car, a bike, a basketball hoop, I don't know what it would be. But Lord, if there's ways that we can use what we've been given to bless others, help us see those things through your eyes, to hold them loosely, to give towards the kingdom. Help us be generous. Help us give to you, honor you with our wealth, the first fruits of all that comes into our house, and then we'll trust that you'll provide everything we need. It's in your name that we pray all these things. And the church said, amen. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being here. If you want to talk, have questions about the hoodies and haircuts, Becky's going to head out to the connection point. You can talk to her. There she goes. If you have other questions, you need to get on that list. Talk to me or her. But church, I'm excited for the next couple weeks. I hope you'll lean in with me as we begin to talk about the hows and the whys to our generosity and our giving in the next 2 weeks. Go and have a blessed Sunday afternoon, a wonderful week, and we'll look forward to seeing you back next Sunday. Have a great day.